Robert Kiyosaki is indicating that he believes that our economy is currently undergoing the most severe downturn that it has the potential to experience. He informed the gathering that he had some terrible information for them, and it was right here in front of them. This year is shaping out to be one of the worst of our lives, and according to him, the beginning of the next and most severe recession will occur in January of 2023. As a consequence of this, he is relieved that some people are interested enough in what he has to say to listen to him so that they don't have to be a victim of all the nonsense that is widespread in the market today. When it drops, the stock market, bond market, and real estate market all behave similarly to a sinkhole. This is the problem with all of these markets. It brings the neighborhoods and the companies along with it, and it brings everything else along with it as well, mainly due to the fact that it impacts a far bigger number of individuals who are now being held captive. Having said that, losing a business, real estate, and all of these other things drags everything else down with it. That is why some people are leaving some states and moving to others right now. And his preference for oil is based on the fact that it can't be printed. Stocks, ETFs, and currency may all be created at will, but oil hasn't been pressed from thin air. And according to him, energy is what keeps civilization going. And if the cost of energy continues to rise instead of living expenses, or if we just don't have enough of it, our standard of living will suffer. That's why the Keystone XL pipeline was shut down when Biden was in office. The oil that they were selling from our North Dakota, Louisiana, and Texas wells enriched him. As recently as a month ago, we were able to sell for $30 per barrel. Biden's election caused a surge that caused the price to rise to $130. At the first hint of hyperinflation, tyrants and rebellions are sure to follow in their footsteps. We are headed in the direction of joining the ranks of Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and Lenin. People who were losing their jobs and fighting a constant uphill battle to make ends meet as a direct result of hyperinflation have every right to feel frustrated. Sadly, this energy is responsible for a lot of different things, and it costs way too much money to do so. The value of the mark is going to dramatically decrease in the not too distant future, which will make the prices that are currently being charged appear even more. Most people really just buy things and hope for the best. They buy investments, mutual funds, and 401k plans, and then they just hope that everything works out. As he said before on the show, hope isn't a good way to plan for retirement, but that's what most people do. They have their heads buried in the sand, and when they woke up today, their 401k was down by 25 to 30%, leaving them to wonder what happened. And this isn't over. Robert says that things are going to get a lot worse, even though some people think they'll get better. A corporate credit is the biggest bubble of all, which most people do not know. During the boom, interest rates kept going down until they were at zero, which meant that many businesses couldn't grow. So, they borrowed money from their company's balance sheet and used the money to buy back their stock. And they would give this debt to the company to buy back their stock. You know, Apple just buys more Apple stock with their credit. At the same time that people were unable to pay for their pensions, the bond market in London or England had a similar decline. Now, the stock markets are experiencing the same thing. This subject is discussed in the book authored by Tom Will Wright titled Tax-Free Riches, which is available for purchase. Here, he talks about the tax breaks and the incentives that we were able to provide. Therefore, if you want to offer an incentive for that customary for oil to create homes, they are included in tax incentives, and you can form a firm to give you that incentive. However, you may be subject to the highest rates of taxation if you are an employee or the proprietor of a self-employed or small firm. So let's imagine that in addition to that, if we find oil, we are also granted a depletion allowance. What exactly does that entail? The depletion allowances, on the other hand, allow you to take a 15 completion allowance for every dollar that is produced or that you make from oil as income. This is courtesy of the federal government. Therefore, you will be able to deduct that amount from the revenue that you are generating from the sale of oil and gas. However, the most significant advantage is that you want to increase your cash flow. You are searching for oil and hoping to strike it rich, and you are seeking that oil. You are, in essence, drilling wells, and the regions in which we take part are predominantly in the Bakken, which is located in North Dakota. The backend is an unconventional play, similar to the horizontal play that we discussed a little bit earlier. But as of right today, there have been more than 14,000 wells drilled there. And the way things have worked out for him, some of the investments he made continue to pay him back. He continues to get monthly payments in the form of checks. You will not be able to locate a 401k, but you should rejoice since the money is traveling in the opposite direction, toward Wall Street. When Robert Kiyosaki makes an investment with Mike Moselli, the funds eventually reach him. In addition, he receives tax incentives from the government. The goal of the cash flow in the board game is to allow you to exit the race and meet the conditions to invest on the fast track as an approved investor. This is the point where we are presently situated. However, it is inevitable that they would assert that the majority of people are incapable of doing this due to their lack of financial education. However, even if they did, they would not have sufficient funds. He is referring to 100%, although the average 401k balance is $70,000. When they reach the age of 65, they anticipate retiring with this sum. He means it literally when he says it is terrifying. According to Robert Kiyosaki, the world's biggest crash will occur in January of 2023, precisely like when Great Britain collapsed. It is because they're being completely irresponsible with money, interest rates, and everything else. However, what are your thoughts on the financial strategy? Take for example a 70-year-old man whose 401k is completely depleted. Others have argued that timing is not the issue. Our goal is to avoid market timing. The market is ready now. The banking sector's common catchphrases go something like this: don't worry, everything will resolve itself. Everything will return to normal, as it always has in the past. To continue forward, just keep going. To put it bluntly, Robert Kiyosaki has zero faith in paper. He has little faith in it and suggests that we divert our attention to liquidity instead of the other factors. What he means is that he could simply leave with the tap of a smartphone, whereas you wouldn't have that option with your possessions. That's the main benefit he finds appealing then. Since he intends to keep the money he invests with Mike for the foreseeable future, he must exercise caution in his financial dealings. To sum up, he only puts his money into things that can't be duplicated. Not much to it. Okay, let's focus on the oil crisis alone. It seems to him that many individuals have a naive notion of the practical use of oil. Oil can be found in nearly every object we handle: fabulous bags, paper and food. Of course, genuine fertilizers will also be on display. This year, we might expect severe food shortages. He is pessimistic about Europe's prospects, yet you've probably heard of many of our clients because they've been featured in the media. That's what he means when he says they invest some of their money in commodities like oil and gas, precious metals, or whatever else might be profitable. You ought to have some variety. To the average investor, it seems evident that diversification and energy are desirable. People have good critical faculties and can see through the administration's propaganda. He means they regularly visit the gas station, where the price of diesel remains near $5 per gallon. They can keep saying that gas prices are dropping, but in reality, they are draining our national reserves. In other words, they might simply drill further. 2 reasons. They want to get rid of hydrocarbon, and they have a midterm election coming up. They obviously don't want oil prices to rise. They want to stop using oil from the militarily stockpile after the election. And that's why, regardless of how many millions of barrels of oil they release, prices will soon rise again. 1 million barrels per day to maintain low prices and ensure re-election. If they do so, they'll be able to take the Green New Deal even further than it is now. Well, what thoughts do you have concerning these details? Are you on the same page as Robert Kiyosaki with what he's providing here? It gives us great pleasure to read the comments that you leave for us in the comment box down below. So feel free to respond and talk about what you think about this content in the comments.